Hey, this episode is really exciting. It's actually a clip that Kristen Young shared on our last Broker Talks that we were on. And the whole idea is that Kristen had taken her business, she tripled her business from 2022 to 2025. And she did it by focusing on warmth plus competence, which equaled influence. It's very tactical and it's less than 20 minutes. It's an awesome way for you to think about your mortgage business. I think you're going to find this very inspiring as well as tactical. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast, and our goal is to bring you episodes to help you improve your business. Before we jump into this, I want to give a shout out to Omwell. Omwell is an amazing tool for Canadian brokers, allows them to engage your database with these reports they send out on a monthly basis, as well as it finds opportunities in your database for you. So it's doing the math and says, hey, this person can save $20,000 by refinancing or breaking their mortgage early. Check them out at omwell.ca and check out this conversation I have with Kristen.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I am super excited to be here. I love working with Bricks and with all of you. I've been with Bricks since the summer of 2024. And you'll see that that is also coinciding with a lot of what I'm going to talk about in my presentation. Okay, so I am going to tell you from 2023 to 2025 how I tripled my business. I didn't spend more money. I didn't go out and get new marketing or new processes. I changed my business from being transactional to being relational. In 2023, after 15 years in the business, I was not growing. And if you were to look at my business, you would see a lot of dead grass. I was plateaued, and my husband reminds me of a quote. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greenest wherever it's being watered, and I was not watering. Now, after 15 years, I was a really good mortgage broker. I knew how to put a deal together. I knew how to be responsive and to strategize and to just get things done in a really quick, efficient way. And I thought that being really competent would lead to more referrals. I thought competency created loyalty and consistency created growth. But I was wrong. And referral partners would move on. And from my perspective, I had not failed them. But I had a breakthrough. In 2024, I moved over to Bricks, and I had the opportunity to hire a new licensed mortgage assistant, and her name is Lindsay. And if you talk to Lindsay on the phone, it sounds like you're talking to a Disney princess. And she would hate it if I said that. But Lindsay had this unique set of soft skills. She was warm, she had empathy, she was able to break through when people were upset. And what I found is that my referral partners started calling me, and this was unsolicited. They would call me and tell me, we love working with Lindsay. I even had appraisers calling and say, we really like working with Lindsay. And Lindsay wasn't faster or more competent than previous assistants that I'd had. She just had these soft skills. And so I started wondering, what's going on here? There was a real shift in my business. And I thought, maybe soft skills aren't just a bonus, maybe they're a competitive advantage. And I shifted my focus. Rather than going after all the business, trying to add in new things, I decided to go after my existing base of partners, of existing clients, and that resulted in momentum and real compounding growth. Now the numbers tell the story. Up until 2023, I was pretty much plateaued. These are my volume for 2019 through to 2025. So you can see in 2023, I did 71 transactions, and I did 28 million that year, down from 2022. In 2024, we doubled. That was when we brought Lindsay on. We started making some changes. We went up to 66 million. And in 2025, I completed 175 files, and I funded 89 million. Team effort for sure. What I'm really excited about is that my mix is improving. So in 2025, 60% of my business came from realtors and 17% from repeat clients, 15% from organic Facebook and Google, and 10% from my sphere. In 2026, year to date, that has evolved to 42% realtors, 27%, so up 27% repeat, 21% Facebook and Google, and 10% sphere. Vanessa Van Edwards is a behavioral scientist, and she teaches about what makes people the most effective, the most charismatic. And she talks about that those people have a very high degree of warmth and competence. If you lean too far into warmth, people like you, but they don't fully trust your expertise. And if you lean too far into competence, people will respect you, but they don't feel comfortable with you. The real influence happens in the middle, where people feel both safe and confident following your lead. I had spent 15 years almost entirely leading with competence, speed, decisiveness, authority. I had that dialed in. What I hadn't been doing is intentionally turning up the warmth. So I'm going to rapid fire now all the things that I did that I believe impacted the growth in my business. And that started with the overhaul of my discovery call. I was very proud of myself after 15 years that I had got my discovery call down to 5 minutes. I thought that was amazing. And what I realized is that is not a flex. And so I actually went from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So my calls are at least 30 minutes now, and they didn't get just longer, they got better. I ask a ton of open-ended questions. I make sure that people talk for at least half of that discovery call. The science shows that if they talk more, that they have a better experience. They feel better about it. I've slowed down. As you can see, I can talk really fast. And I've added lots of pauses into my client calls and even my referral partner calls. I make sure that people have space to think and to ask questions. If you don't pause, they won't ask. And then you're moving on and you're not building trust. I also give a current state of reality, so I tell them where they stand right now, and then I'm always talking about the future. So even if they're not asking me, I'm looking at their file and analyzing what can we do next. I'm always positioning myself as someone who can handle today, but then also talk about tomorrow. I offer my opinion. I don't just give information and education. People want leadership. These are uncertain times. So I say things like, if I were in your position, this is what I would do. That confidence matters. I had a big mindset shift. I became way more positive. I can be very intense and very business-oriented, and it can put people off. And so what I did is, no matter what's going on in my life, when I pick up the phone, when I show up for a meeting, I am extremely happy. People want to be around people that make them feel good. One of the best things that you can do is encourage, is empathize, is listen to someone's story. When they've made an offer on a house, spend the first 5 minutes of the call looking at that property online with them. Go through the pictures. Talk about things that are special about it. This changes the experience, and it draws people to you. I got the best compliment ever. I had a client that told me a couple weeks ago that after our discovery call, she hung up the phone with her husband, and she looked at him and she said, "That girl loves her job." And I do. I absolutely love what I do, and I make sure that it shows through. One of the most important lessons in slowing down is understanding that you can never sound too busy for the people that you want more business from. Even if it's true, and as you grow, it will be true. They can hear it in your tone. People remember how you make them feel, and feeling like an interruption is not a feeling that drives referrals. I've also changed how I talk about my business. So rather than being like, "Oh, we've had a good month," or "We've had a bad month," I say the same thing every time. I tell people that we're doing well, we're stable, but we could grow. You know, I'm at probably about 50% capacity. I could double. And I say that no matter what every time, because I want people to know that I want to grow and that I have room to take the referrals and to take exceptional care of them. This is the most powerful statement I say to clients on our discovery call. I tell people, I am looking for clients for life. As long as you have a mortgage, I want to be the person that works with you. And you know what they say at the end of that? Me too. I'm in. And they are connected to you. Now, as we have grown and we have scaled, so we have systems, we have hired amazing staff. I've got a great team behind me. I've got an EA that lives in my emails. She sends emails as if it's me, so we're very responsive. But we have been very obsessed with the idea that as we scale, people do not experience our growth. And so the more they work with us, the smaller it needs to feel, not in impact, but in how personal it is. So I don't have underwriters, I don't have fulfillment specialists, I have inside mortgage specialists, like the BRM model, so with Scotia or some of the other lenders. So they take the file from the very beginning to the very end. And what that means is that people are not being passed on to somebody new. There's no one at the end of the transaction that all of a sudden is appearing. People do not feel like they are confused about who to talk to. And we are building a true relationship with these clients. And so what happens is when someone comes in, they are paired with one of my assistants and they stay with them for life. I had a client last week that I had a call with. We did a purchase from last year. We're going to do a refinance for him this year. And we had our discovery call. I went through all the options. And he said, Kristen, I'm so happy for you. It looks like your business has done well. And I'm just wondering, is Lindsay still there? Do I still get to work with Lindsay? And I said, yes, you get to work with Lindsay. She can't wait to work with you. And so we keep people together. I also do this with my referral partners. So my referral partners now, they know when we've got an offer, when we've got a new client, they're introducing us to them. It's me and let's say Kayla. And every time they're coming back to us. And they think that we're really small. We're small but mighty. The other thing that I've added in is a yearly client review. If you had asked me even 3 months ago if this would be of value, I would have laughed. I didn't think it would be. But putting that in has been incredible for our business. And what I find is we offer the yearly review to everyone, but only 2 types of people respond. One is people who actually want to do a transaction, so there's real business happening there. And 2, it's people who have questions. And when you build your business based on connection and wanting to further that connection, why would you turn away the opportunity to talk to an existing client? And when I look at our May closings, 50% of our closings are repeat clients, and it's from this. I also DISC my people. So DISC is a personality profile. Before I hire anyone, I want to see how they're going to work within our team. For people who are working behind the scenes, we are looking for C's and S's. S is service-oriented, C is conscientious. And those people do not want to be front and center, so they're not looking to leave. They're very loyal, and they're very encouraged by being part of a team. And then I make sure they have really strong soft skills. Now, as fast as possible, I want to start advising anyone that I work with, whether that's a client or referral partner, I want to start advising them on matters outside the mortgage. When I want to win the relationship beyond the transaction. If the only value you bring is getting the mortgage done, you are replaceable. But when you are advising on their business, their growth, their strategy, their future, you become much harder to replace. I saw this play out with some clients. They had kids my kids' age. We had a great connection call where we talked about schools. 3 months later, I got the offer to purchase across my desk, and they had bought a house across the street from my kids' school because of my recommendation. I got introduced to a top realtor in Calgary, where I'm from, and we started connecting, and he let me know that he's got a great mortgage broker that he was working with, and I said, no problem. You know, we're getting along. Let's just connect, because that's the goal, not necessarily asking for business. I met with him for 2 hours, and we didn't talk about working together. We talked about business and his business. We opened his books. We talked about who he was hiring, his marketing strategies, ways he could improve, what he was doing well. And at the end of the 2 hours, he looked at me and he said, Kristen, I have to work with you. The other guy's a mortgage broker. You're a strategic partner. Send me all of your information. I'm putting you on my website today. My goal is to outgive everyone that I encounter, whether that's clients or referral partners, and I tell them that. I tell referral partners, at the end of the day, I want you to look and say, you know what we've given to Kristen and what she's given to us, she's given more. And what I find is when you do that, people are absolutely compelled to refer you. The summary is simple. If you want to win long-term, stop focusing on the deal and start building the relationship around it. I also say yes as much as possible. So I say yes to clients. I have a realtor that calls me and she says, Kristen, I love working with you because the answer is always yes. I'm very positive, like I said, and I'm solution-oriented. So somebody will call me and they want a mortgage, the answer is yes. Now, you might have to go get a job. You might have to, save money for a down payment. You never know. It might be 2 years of filing taxes, but we're gonna get you there. And you know what? When you're someone like that, and when you do that 30-minute discovery call, sometimes you find out that there's a cosigner available. You put deals together that you never thought you could get done, and then you are, again, so valuable to your referral partners. And people love working with you, and then they're referring you because you're the person who will work with them. And I tell clients, the harder the file, I say, you're my favorite because I get to work with you the longest, and I love putting them on a plan. I had an opportunity recently to show up in person. So I say yes to in-person events. I had a client that was a hairdresser. She became a realtor, and I started out-giving her. I started helping her on her files. I started coaching her on her business. And eventually, she ended up joining a very large, successful team in Calgary. And without me asking, she went to the team lead and started advocating that I would become their preferred mortgage partner. And he said yes. And again, I started out giving him and offering what I do with all of these realtors. And he does a lot with events in Calgary. And so he started inviting me to events with realtors where I would literally be in a room with this many people that are all realtors, and I would be the only mortgage broker. Because he felt compelled to give back to me. Say yes with a plan, say yes to opportunities, and say yes to showing up. That's how doors open and stay open. In 2024, I also had the opportunity to partner with Jared Shaw. And Jared and I run independent businesses, but we share branding and we share our assistants. And this is not in my notes, but if possible, do not go it alone because it has been so incredible to work with him. And so much of what I'm talking about today, I have learned from him. Now, when I did this, I went from Kristen Young, mortgage agent, to Kristen Young, partner at Merge Mortgage Group. And I leveled up big time. So remember Vanessa Van Edwards. She talked about the most effective people have a high degree of warmth and competency. By changing my branding, by partnering with somebody, I went way up with competency. And this gave me a reason to reintroduce myself. It changed the caliber of people that I attracted. I started attracting more business owner, team leads, high net worth, high performers. Also, branding with running a team makes it much more acceptable for people to work with other people other than myself. So that got easier right away because people realized that there's going to be somebody else involved in the transaction. The summary is simple. Growth isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about positioning yourself at a higher level so you attract better opportunities. Finally, gratitude is a growth strategy. I had to face a very difficult reality, which is that at the end of 2024, 2023, I had taken people for granted. Not intentionally, but I was on autopilot. Someone would send a deal in, I'd say thank you, and assume it would continue. But when someone puts their name behind your name, that should never feel routine. That should feel like an honor every single time. So I've changed how I treat people. I highly recommend reading the book Unreasonable Hospitality because that's what I do. When somebody sends me something, I want to send something greater back. So if the natural response is a text message, I make a phone call. If the natural response is a phone call, I'll send a gift card. But I'm always trying to outdo somebody with my love. I've also become a student of those around me. So we do customized gift baskets at Christmas. I have a male and a female one. And then I have notes on the personalities and the interests of people that I work with. And I have a girl that creates these beautiful baskets that are customized. And I get calls from men and women saying that this is one of the best gifts they've ever received in their life because everything is curated for them. We also reward people with certificates. So I have like awards every year that my referral partners can win. And this is really great because it doesn't cost any money. You just print off a certificate and that person can win like top referral partner for 2025 or like most referrals in March, like whatever it is, nicest realtor, something like that. But it's so fun. And what I find is that putting something tangibly in their hand makes a difference. My number one referral partner for 2025 sent me $125,000 in revenue. And her highest value is her family and travel. And so she received a suitcase, brand new suitcase with a big red bow on it, with a bunch of travel supplies in it, and a trip for her family to go on a cruise. And she was absolutely shocked and overwhelmed and called me and said, Kristen, I can't believe this. Like, this is incredible. Thank you so much. And then she said, how can I not send you all of my business for forever? It really connected us. At the core, the message is simple. People go where they feel valued. So when people ask how I more than tripled my business, there's no secret tactic. I changed how I relate to people. I stopped treating connection as a bonus and started treating it as the strategy. I kept the competence and structure, but I added warmth, patience, and tension. I made people feel safe, valued, and understood, even as my business scaled. And that's what changed everything. I started watering what I already had, and when I did, the growth came. And today, I would say this is a much better representation of my business.
Hey, thanks again for listening, and hopefully you're inspired by this conversation. And I'm sure that if you've had any questions for Kristen, you can reach out to her. She's an amazing human and always open to sharing. Check her out. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is finding the answer when you need it. This podcast is designed to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.